Hello and welcome back to Warcraft Daily for today the 27th of February 2014. So in today's news we have one little topic about arena MMRs being a little bit messed up, then some tweets from the Blues, and finally a whole bunch of viewer question and answer stuff. So first of all, the MMR bug. Well, Lord came to the forums and as it turned out there was a slight problem with MMR calculations in the US, which led to a whole bunch of people, well not a whole bunch, basically just a small amount of people, getting an inflated rating. It's a bit of a problem, but the good news is that the problem which led to that has been fixed, and that those who got high ratings because of it, well, their ratings will just fall into line over time. It did happen in the very first day of the arena system, or season, so really it's not like a giant spike now is going to carry. It's really not going to carry forward for more than a week, or probably even less actually, so it should be okay. And now, in case anyone does attempt to just sit on their high rating until the end of the season to get a reward, Blizzard will manually adjust them. So overall, it's a little bit of a pity that happened, but it seems like the fixes should do the job just fine. Okay, so next let's move on to a whole bunch of tweets, and the first one is from Celestian. Now, he said that it is probably convenient to count down the hours until the first blog post at this point. That's quite interesting. Basically, they're putting out these really giant blog posts, and the purpose of those is just to inform a lot of their game design decisions for major systems in Warlords of Draenor. Now, we know that the second one is about healing, but we don't know what the first one is about, so really it's anyone's guess. What's most likely going to happen is the blog will come out at about, let's just say 11 PM tonight, because, well, usually for me these blog posts do end up coming out very late, so I'll probably stick up a video tonight. I'm not particularly sure how I'll manage that one, but if it is a large enough blog post, then it will probably replace that day's Warcraft Daily. Which is fine, because honestly there probably wouldn't be that much news after a major blog post anyway. Okay, so the next bunch of tweets are from Watcher. First of all, he said that between quests, scenarios, crafting professions, garrisons, and PvP, you should be able to do LFR without dungeons. And this is just in response to someone, but it does kind of bring up a larger question. Well, a larger topic. The access to gear in this expansion is really quite spread out, and I know that a lot of people have said that with perhaps Justice points and Valor points being removed or heavily worked out, they're going to have a bit of a problem where they don't feel like they have a lot to work to. Well, here's the thing. So what Valor and Justice have done previously is they have funneled every single form of PvE and, well, just PvE actually, into one tiny reward structure with a few different, factions and that kind of thing. So if you were doing a scenario or a dungeon or anything, you were all just getting points which funneled into this one reward scheme. At least with this method in Warlords, there are a lot more different ways of getting gear, which hopefully should lead to some more varied gameplay. So first of all, we got quests, which, fine, whatever, probably not that great. Then scenarios, I'd be very interested to see what the heroic scenarios turn out to be, especially in terms of difficulty and where they fall between heroic dungeons and normal dungeons. I think that'll be very interesting to see. Then also crafting, which is just going to be the same as usual probably, garrisons, PvE, and then the way that in PvP you have a chance of getting a random piece of gear for completing a battleground. Then you have Ashran, and then the max level outdoor PvP stuff, or PvE stuff. Now here's another thing. So in Mists of Pandaria, a lot of that outdoor rep grind, patch 5.0 PvE stuff was locked behind a reputation, and also it cost a whole bunch of Justice points. Well, perhaps it would just make more sense if you get those, well, what would be the equivalent of those rewards through some actual cool gameplay. I think that would make a lot more sense, and it would be more fitting with the world. Hopefully by diversifying the amount of, or at least, kind of spreading out the gear in terms of ways you get it, it should lead to just some more varied and interesting gameplay, which is really a good thing. We still need to wait, though, until that all gets ironed out and we get some details, because honestly, we just don't know the facts at the minute, and well, if you make assumptions without knowing facts, then you're probably going to have a bad time. Okay, so next, Watcher said that High Mall has got optional bosses, while Blackrock Foundry does not. This is interesting. They are both non-linear raids, with High Mall being a little bit more like Firelands, but this idea of optional bosses I think is great. Because if in one night you just want to go kill the end boss and then move on to something else, you can do that. Or maybe if you just want to kill a specific boss, then you can do that. It's got a lot more freedom. And one of the nice things too is that perhaps really the first 4 bosses of Highmaul are useless to your raid. That is totally possible. Well, maybe you can skip a few of them and go right on to the bosses which you need, so you don't feel like you're wasting time. It's sometimes annoying in a raid, especially those heavily linear ones like Throne of Thunder and the Siege of Orgrimmar, where you have to go through like 5 or 6 different bosses to get to something that's relevant to you. I know as a hunter it was really annoying in the Siege because we didn't get a great deal of good gear until a little bit later on, so you would always have to sort of cut your way through a whole bunch of crap to actually get to the point at which gear could be useful to you. So it's nice that this optional boss system will give you a little bit more flexibility in that regard. As for Blackrock Foundry not including optional bosses, I think that does make an okay bit of sense. It's still non-linear, so it still has plenty of options, and in terms of its layout, it's a little bit like the top of ICC, where you have 3 different wings, which then lead into the final boss's wing. Alright, so next he said that they have more to come in terms of Valor points and Justice points, and just their overall plans for streamlining currencies, but there are no announcements to make yet. This is just once reaffirming the idea of don't jump to conclusions. I'm sure they will have some sort of system in place to, well, replace this or something that's better. Honestly, I think VP and JP are fine, but I think that there's absolutely room for improvement. They are just so heavily deterministic that it takes away a lot of excitement from the game, and it's also a little bit annoying the way that they funnel maybe 5 different methods of gear progression into one source of gear. So dungeons, scenarios, dungeons, scenarios, outdoor PvE stuff, it's all just kind of funneled into one vendor. Maybe there's a better way of doing that kind of thing. I don't know, but perhaps we're going to find out when they at least talk about their plans for the currency streamlining. And also, it's worth saying, this isn't dumbing down. If you think this is dumbing down, then you're probably dumb yourself, because it's just changing up how a point works. There was no skill involved with that, so it is not dumbing down. Sometimes people throw around this bat of dumbing down all the time, and honestly, streamlining is not a terrible word. Sure, it can be very bad in the case of, say, boss mechanics or class mechanics if it's implemented incorrectly, but it can just lead to better gameplay which makes more sense. And in the sort of sense of currencies, I think that's absolutely possible. Okay, so next he said that they want you to be getting around Draenor in a rather fast and convenient fashion, but that unrestricted flight skips gameplay, not just travel. So the idea is that if you can just fly all over the place, then the world no longer is a part of your gameplay, because if you see a fortress, well, you no longer have the decision-making question of how do I tackle this problem, you just fly straight to where you need to go. It takes away a lot of potential for them designing really cool worlds, at least in terms of marring the game world in with the actual quest. So if you have a quest which really does heavily depend on the placement of mobs and the terrain around you, well, if you can fly, then that quest is pointless. And the exact same principle goes for that outdoor max level PvE content as well. Basically, it's just like, you still have trash mobs in a raid, but you can't fly over them to skip them. And yeah, overall, I think it's an okay way of doing things. We'll just have to see how it pans out. Of course, for this to work, they do need to ensure that the flight points are fantastic in this expansion. They cannot be like some of the really crappy ones we had in Northrend and some other places. They need to go the direct, quickest route to where you want to go. No more meandering around the place and having flights that are twice as long as they could be. They really do need to nail that down. And then finally, Watcher said that the story scenarios are, well, first of all, there are story scenarios at the end of zones that basically are the culmination of a quest line. Anyway, those solo scenarios will be pulling in any party members that you have at the time, which is quite a nice feature because you can experience that content with friends. So I just thought that was worth saying because it's kind of cool. Alright, so finally for the tweets, Laura said that they are re-evaluating honor gain and acquisition in Warlords of Draenor, but no specifics. Honestly, for all these different currency-related issues, we should just wait until a blog comes out explaining them. That's when we can actually have a bit more of a proper debate about it. Alright, so let's move into the viewer Q&A stuff. First of all, Andrew Lucinda, I think, something like that. Sorry, I butchered your name. Anyways, question is, do you think there will be a mount theme in Warlords of Draenor, such as Chimera? If so, what theme do you think it would be, and do you think it would be Iron Horde only? Do you think it will be the same as Mists of Pandaria, with the Cloud Serpents practically being the only new mount in the expansion, minus the 5.2 dinosaurs? And then, probably it's worth saying there's 1 or 2 Dragonhawks and kites and things like that, and the disc. But still, I do know what you mean. Through just, like, main factions and a lot of rewards, it has just been, hey, here's 18 different kinds of Cloud Serpent. Yeah, and he also said that he supposes that the Proto-Drakes were also very big in Wrath of the Lich King. So, right, things to say. First of all, I think that they shouldn't go for a mount theme such as Chimera. We haven't seen any solid indication of a theme yet, so I can't really say anything on that. Though I would like there to be Arakoa themed mounts. I'd like there to be Iron Horde ones. I'd like there to just be Draenor kind of bestial style mounts. There needs to be a large breadth for mounts. There really does, because after Mists of Pandaria, I'm just tired of celestial dragons. I think they look really cool, but Jesus Christ, there's so many of them. You've got like the heavenly black one, the heavenly onyx one, the heavenly golden one, you've got the heavenly crimson one, you've got the thundering black one, you've got all the different, just like ones you buy off the faction vendor, you've got the celestial one, and I think there's 1 or 2 others on top of that. Now, honestly, for half of those heavenly ones, I think there should be a new kind of mount that is not a Cloud Serpent. That would make more sense to me, and it would add more variety. I think another problem with Mists is how most of the kind of main mounts that you would acquire are Cloud Serpents. There's not really a great deal of variation there, so that's an issue. If you look back to, say, I don't know, not Wrath of the Lich King, Burning Crusade, you had Griffins, then you had Nether Ways? No, they don't exist. Nether Rays, Nether Wings. You probably had 1 or 2 other things. Yeah, you had the Albino Drake. You had more stuff, essentially. A bit more of a wider range in terms of the widely available stuff. So, absolutely, I agree that there should be more than just Cloud Serpent, Cloud Serpent, Cloud Serpent, because that was a pain. So, yeah, honestly, though, I just don't know what the main theme could be. Hopefully, it is many. Alright, so the next question is from Tekka, who says, what is the best profession to boost on a level 60 character when Warlords of Draenor hits in terms of gold making? Is it enchanting and jewel crafting? I would personally say that the 3 ones that you want to get are jewel crafting, because you can prospect ore and then turn it into gems. And then, of course, alchemy, because you can use alchemy to turn gems into other gems. Specifically, it's very good for making meta gems. Though with meta gems going, I'm not particularly sure what will happen. Given that we don't know the Warlords of Draenor changes, I'm going to say alchemy's probably a good bet, though, because it usually has some nice daily procs and that kind of thing. Jewel crafting, well, gems are always a thing that people use. The only problem is that there is crazy competition with the jewel crafting market. And enchanting's also a really solid one. Honestly, whichever of the 3 suits you the best, I'd say. And then finally we have a question from Russell Jimmies, who says, do you think the updated character models will look out of place in the old world? Interesting question, and there was actually a guy who said in the comments, would someone from now look out of place in the 1700s? And I'd say that stylistically, yes, they would, but there may be a little bit of a false equivalency there, because a person now is still in like the same graphical fidelity as someone in the 1700s. They still look like a person. It's not like the texture resolution of humans has decreased, because that would be absurd and slightly impossible. Though, for a strictly, like, in-game purpose, there could be an issue. So first of all, the updated character models will, like, go through every single old NPC. And because nearly every old NPC falls into the category of a playable character, well, not everyone, of course we still have beasts and then, like, ogres and shit, but still, there are a lot of humans and orcs and like, that kind of thing running around the place. They will all look better. The only issue is that the armor that they're wearing may not look better. So perhaps Blizzard could just come up with a few sets to give them, or just have some method of updating the resolution, though I gotta say, it could be quite the problem. We'll just have to see how that pans out, but I know that Blizzard are aware of it. They have said so on Twitter a few times before. Maybe there will be a solution, maybe not. So anyway, yeah, that's basically it for today's Warcraft Daily. Sorry if I didn't really speak too well throughout the whole thing. I'm really tired. I've recorded this like right 5 minutes after I woke up, which was really a fun experience. So yeah, if you want to support the channel and help out, you can check out my Patreon page, and then also my social media links, which are in the description of the video. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you next time.